Hi, and welcome to the Wellness Blueprint with Tim and Christy, where you are empowered to change your health.
Welcome. Well, as you know, last time Henry emailed you, and now he emailed me. He's wanting his own makeup artist and costume artist, and so we're a little tight on the budget. We're gonna try to work with him, because we said we were gonna bring him along. I'm not sure what's with the whistle here. He said he wanted to always referee. So anyway,
It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous, Henry.
well, I've also heard that he has his own email.
Yes, he does. You want to know what it is?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ask Henry at wellnessblueprintpodcast.com. He demanded to have his own email so that his followers could email in and tell us what they would like to hear us talk about.
I've also heard he wants his own T-shirts. So we'll see how.
Wait, Henry wants his own merch.
He wants his own merch. He wants his own T-shirts.
Henry, this is getting ridiculous. We're on episode 4, dude.
Well, he said he wanted to talk about Triple E. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
He wanted to talk
That's a
about
good
Triple
one.
E. So we're going to talk about that: education, experience, and equipment. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I have to admit that is a good topic that he wanted us to talk about because, of course, we have degrees in chiropractic.
Yes.
We have the education. But as time goes by, the experience is invaluable. And so the experience that we have with disc cases, being in practice for 36 years, you've been in practice close to 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, having the equipment. It's kind of like a carpenter. Have you ever seen a carpenter that only has a hammer and nothing else?
No, not really.
They kind of need like a saw, don't they, or something else, So if you're a carpenter, you got to have the tools. And if you're going to deal with disc cases and deal with, difficult disc cases like we deal with now, you got to have the equipment.
Exactly. Do you remember giving me a copy of this and having me hang it up in my office?
Yes.
That's been several years ago. So we just kind of follow. I mean, this is just kind of our motto, I guess.
Triple E.
Triple E.
Education, experience, and equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talked about last time joining a group called Disc Centers of America. This is, as you know, I've got a lot of books, right?
He has a lot. You just wouldn't believe.
I get books almost every week. Sometimes my wife wants to put me on a book diet, but I've got 3 books coming this week. This is the most expensive book that I have ever gotten. It was probably like birthday, Christmas, Valentine's Day,
Father's Day.
But anyway, it is an amazing book. It's got Norman Shealy in the center there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would call him one of the fathers of decompression.
And the TENS unit, right?
He discovered, well, I wouldn't say discovered, he developed the TENS unit.
And posture pump, maybe?
Posture pump,
yes.
Came up with that. He's had several different patents, but Harvard neurosurgeon, over 500 published papers on decompression.
Wow.
The interesting thing is, before he passed away last year, he passed the torch onto Disc Centers of America. So I feel honored that we are a part of that group that Dr. Shealy passed the torch to.
Yes.
So
if you didn't watch our last episode, we talked about Disc Centers of America and how we go to training with them at least once a year.
yes,
Dr. Camerman even spoke at one of the neuropathy seminars this year that they had. So that was in Atlanta?
that was an honor. Yes.
So he was one of their neuropathy speakers. So I guess you'll probably be talking about neuropathy at some point in these episodes that we do. So
I think it's a must.
yes. So we talked about Disc Centers of America in our last podcast. So that is the group that we have joined, 5 or 6 years ago
About
now?
6 years ago.
So they gave us some tips on treating disc issues and the specific decompression table that we needed and some other treatment pieces of equipment that we needed to treat disc problems. So,
when I went down to Florida for the very first time and was just kind of checking out Disc Centers of America, I had the wrong concept, like a lot of other doctors
Oh.
and certainly a lot of patients. And so my philosophy at that time was traction's traction. It doesn't
Yes.
matter what type of traction you're doing. It's really all the same thing. And so whether it was inversion traction, which I like, or other forms of traction, I just thought it was all the same. Boy, did we find out
Oh,
different, didn't
yes.
we?
You can even look at the decompression tables now that we know there's a difference.
Yes.
We still have one of the older traction tables. We don't use that much, but we definitely don't use it on lower back stuff. But you can look at it and tell the difference between the two tables.
When I saw the research, then it was undeniable.
Yes.
And
Is that
so
the Accuspina the only table that has research behind it?
no, several other tables. And so we know that the DRX, other
Or
tables
DRX? Yeah, I
have
forgot about
have
that one.
research. And
Mhm.
so, but Dr. Shealy was one that came up with different aspects of the decompression that we use. And so it was a learning experience because I had to walk away from there saying, okay, there is something different. When you look at the research between traction and decompression, we're trying to approach something different.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the disc itself and
Okay.
why we use decompression.
I think it's important. I always teach my patients what a disc problem is, because a lot of patients they've already been diagnosed with a bulging or herniated disc before they come see us, but they don't know what that means. So I like to explain it like a jelly donut. You put pressure on that donut, that jelly starts to swell in the middle. If you put more pressure on there, you can see how the jelly bubbles out the side, it presses on the nerve. That's a bulging disc. If that jelly comes out of that bubble, that's a herniated disc. A herniated disc is harder to treat and to fix than a bulging disc, but it can be done.
Yes.
So,
And we talked about last time that when you take an X-ray is very valuable in our practice, but you really can't see the disc, can you?
No.
Just the space. You can see the
Just
wear, the disc degeneration,
Mhm.
but you can't see what that disc is doing.
Right.
That's really important to us with decompression because the angles are important.
Our decompression table is very specific, so we have to know exactly, some people have more than one disc problem.
Yes.
So we have to know exactly where the problems are so that we can pull at different angles and, the oscillation times. And so there's a lot of factors and it's very specific. And, if you're going to spend all this time and money to get something fixed, you want us to be as specific as possible because we want you to get better and you want to get better.
Yes. Now you mentioned a word there that I want to follow up on. You said oscillation. That's pretty unique to the Accuspina table that we
Yes.
use because you'll have a pull on the table and it's done. It has an algorithm. It has a computer program that helps with the decompression. And as it starts to pull, it'll have a low pull, then it goes up to a high pull. And what Dr. Ward was talking about, it has an oscillation. So it may go from 50 pounds to 40 to 50 to 40. And as it does that, it allows many patients to get further benefit on decompressing
Yes.
that disc.
And it is very, very important to drink lots of water when you have a disc problem. I don't know if people know that. We really express to our patients, especially the ones that are doing decompression therapy.
I'm going to drink some water just because you said that.
Okay, you go ahead. The disc is made of 86% water. So, if we're pulling and we're tractioning and we're trying to get those discs to go back in where they're supposed to be and trying to hydrate them, then we don't want them 86% Dr. Pepper. We
No.
want them 86% water. So it's very, very important. And the decompression is more likely to work if you drink lots of water.
Yes. When you're going to spend time and money going through a therapy, it doesn't matter if it's in our office or another office, make sure you're drinking that water. That
Exactly.
is a great point because you want your treatment to be as successful as possible. Nutrition is another thing.
Yes.
And so if you don't have the nutrients for the disc to heal, you're at a disadvantage. So we talk about with our
Yes.
patients as well.
What is the three most important, if you had to pick three most important nutritional supplements to take if you're dealing with a disc issue in your back?
Are you talking about particular companies, or are you just talking about nutritional supplements?
Let's just do supplements since, our audience probably doesn't know companies. Just do supplements that you think are beneficial for someone to go get if they're dealing with back pain at home.
Yeah, so minerals are going to be very important. So we make sure that our patients have minerals in their diet.
Mhm.
And then we also make sure that they have essential fats in their diets, the omega-3s.
Mhm.
Those are very important. And we use,
So a fish oil.
yes, fish oil is
Uh-huh.
very important. And then there's others that, what I call the matrix of the disc, that we use. And you'll hear these names thrown around a lot, like glucosamine, chondroitin sulfate, MSM. So there's other factors that are very important for the disc material. And when you add that and water to those tissues, then it enhances the healing.
And you're healing from the inside out, basically.
Yes.
So that's very, and I don't know that people understand that, or maybe, some of my patients say that I don't like to take pills. I don't
Sure.
like to swallow pills. But it's very, very important for the healing process.
Yes.
So, for the disc to heal at its optimal level, you have to have those nutrients because we just don't get those in the foods that we eat anymore.
It's such a problem in our day and time because we have processed food, we have food that's been transported, and the other thing is it's food that has been grown on deficient soil.
Yes.
So the idea is this: if it's not in the soil, it's not in the plant, and it's not going to be in the supplement. And so you also want to have as many whole food supplements as possible instead of just synthetic nutrition.
Right. So if they go out and get their fish oil and their glucosamine, they need to make sure that it's a whole food natural supplement so that
Yes.
they're not getting synthetics because it's basically not working.
Yes. Now, on our first segment, we talked about why we started this podcast. And I think it's an important point right now to talk about why we get the success we get with different cases. And so we're going to, in the future, talk very specifically about each of the nutritional supplements that we use, why we use them, why we think we get the results out of those. Because in my practice, if it doesn't get the results that we're looking for, it's not staying.
No.
And you know that. So
yes. And I have to give you props too. You do a ton of research before you recommend any nutritional product to a patient.
you have to.
So
You have to, because there's just thousands of companies out there, and if you're going to take a supplement, you want to make sure that it's something that's quality and that you're going to get the results out of that.
absolutely.
So that's, again, where that education comes in and that experience that we talked about out of that triple E that Henry was talking about. So
Yes.
glad he asked us to talk
I
about
mean, what
that.
would we do without Henry?
Yeah, so I think that was very good that we go into, and we're going to share our experience with you, because I know when you're out there and you're having back problems, you're having sciatica, you're having difficult times with your life, and you don't know where to turn, we're going to help you.
Yes. Or we're going to try.
We're going to try.
We're going to give it our
we're gonna-
100%.
We're going to give you good quality information. It's not
Yes.
information that we just read in a book. Reading information in a book is very valuable, but it also has been tried and tested in the practice, and we
Yes.
know what statistically wise works better than others.
Yes. So what about the equipment? We've talked a little bit about the decompression table.
Yes.
And what else would you like to talk about? The matrix?
Yeah, I think the Matrix is the next thing, because it was another amazing piece of equipment. I used to joke with my patients and say, the Matrix cost more than my first house. It actually did. And so it was a big step for us to add Matrix. We now have 3, but it was a big step. And so beyond decompression, because decompression is the only thing that really creates what I call that negative pressure in the disc. So
It's correcting the disc.
yes, it's allowing it. The disc is like a pump,
Mhm.
and so it's allowing that pump to work better because we're creating a negative pressure in the
Mhm.
disc with decompression, which you don't get with traction, by the way. We
Right.
talked about the difference, and that's one of the big differences is with traction, you get down to about 40 millimeters of mercury of pressure, but we can get down to either like a negative 160 to negative 200 with decompression. So as we're doing that, uh, decompression is where it's at. But with pain, with spasm, see, I was having spasm this week.
Why don't you tell us how many times you used the Matrix in the last 3 days?
4 times. So I used it actually 5
Mhm.
because I used it once today, and the 2 previous days I used it twice. And so that's the good thing is that having that equipment available to me, and Matrix is amazing.
Mhm.
So a lot of people out there have a TENS unit, and we
Mhm.
actually sell TENS
Mhm.
units. I think they're great,
Mhm.
but a TENS unit only has 0 to 250 pulses per second. And so it has limitations as to what it can do. And then we have other pieces of equipment like interferential and muscle stem that we use on a lot of patients, and that's 1,000 to 1,500 pulses per second. But of course, our Matrix goes up to 10,000 pulses per second.
Yeah, I was going to say 8 to 10,000.
Yes.
Yes. So that, and it uses suction cups.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
that
so like-
capability
Mhm.
where it's like a little massage using the
Mhm.
suction cups as well
Mhm.
as the electrical therapy. So I would say this, beyond the decompression for the disc, the Matrix is one of the most amazing pieces of equipment that we have added that has helped with pain and swelling and spasm. You've seen that with your
Mhm.
cases.
I love the Matrix. I think it's my favorite piece of equipment in the clinic that we have. I have utilized it. Do you remember why I had to use it for so long?
Remind me.
Plantar fasciitis.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yes. I had plantar fasciitis really bad, and that was the only thing that would help with my pain. It worked.
We use it on a lot of other things.
Yes. Mhm.
Shoulders, knees, hips.
Mhm.
So it's a very versatile
Neuropathy.
We'll be talking about that in a big way.
Mhm.
But I love it with disc cases.
Yes.
Because you can take an individual that is at a very high level of pain on the scale. If 10 is the highest and they're at an 8 or a 10, you can almost always bet that you're going to drop that pain level in half, even
if not more.
if not more, sometimes even on the first visit.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So, and that was one of the machines that Disc Centers of America
Yes.
recommended when we joined with them. So that was a piece of equipment that they recommended that we get for disc patients.
You know, I'd never heard of it.
Mm.
Before I went down and was visiting with Disc Centers of America, I'd never heard of the Matrix machine. It's called electroanalgesic, but we call it the Matrix.
Mhm.
And so I had never heard of it, and it is an amazing, amazing machine.
Yes.
We also use lasers.
Mhm.
You know, I saw a statistic just a week or two ago, and I was amazed. It said that probably less than 20% of chiropractors use lasers.
Really?
I was very surprised. I thought it would be much higher than that because, of course, we've been using lasers for over 20 years.
Right.
And so when I saw that statistic, I thought to myself, if less than 20% of chiropractors are using laser, they're missing out on a very valuable piece of equipment.
Mhm.
That's another one that I really love because if you want to increase circulation, of course, there's not a lot of circulation in the disc, but if you want to increase circulation to surrounding tissues, laser is the way to go.
Absolutely. And there's not as many contraindications to that. So if someone has a pacemaker or something like that, you know, they can't really use Matrix or the electrical stimulation, then, you know, laser is completely safe to use. So for most people.
Yes. And again, gets back to education and experience because as you mentioned, there are some individuals that have let's say a defibrillator, and we can't use the matrix on them.
Right.
But like you said, we can use the laser. So it's a great tool. It's one of the 3 things that we use with our decompression disc cases.
Yes.
The decompression,
Matrix,
laser. And so that's a great trio that we have found that is effective in helping turning
Yes,
these
and
cases
spinal
around.
adjustments.
We can't leave
So
that out.
That's very important too.
I have a
But-
chart. I have
Oh
a
no,
I
not
have
a chart.
Yeah, it's here somewhere. You know, because you have to understand, as long as we've been doing chiropractic, it is very valuable. And so chiropractors deal with what we call subluxation or segmental dysfunction. What is that basically? It's a misalignment. Okay. And so how many people that come through our doors have misalignments? Virtually all of them. But if a misalignment or a subluxation stays there long enough, it goes into a bulge. And if the bulge stays there long enough, then it goes into a herniation or a protrusion. So good point.
The longer you let something go on, the harder it is to fix. Is
Yeah.
that what you're telling me?
Well, I'm telling you that chiropractic is important for subluxation. And if you don't deal with that, to your-
Turns into a much bigger problem down the road.
Yes, it does. So anyway, I think we've gone over a lot of information.
Yes.
You know,
But I would like to, like most people are like, what do I do if my back starts hurting and I can't get anywhere for treatment right then? So I think it's important to know that if you're doing something to cause pain and stop doing that. Don't
Right.
go back to doing that right then. Like, you will be surprised that people are like, well, I just kept doing it. If you're doing something, if you're lifting something, if you're moving furniture, you know you've hurt your back starts to hurt. The number one thing is to stop doing that right then.
And that sounds simplistic, but you know what? How often does someone come in, and especially if they've been going to the gym, and they say,
Yes.
should I quit going to the gym, or should I modify what I'm doing at the gym? And so our first concern is not to further aggravate
Right.
what's going on.
And you're going to want to use ice packs.
Yes.
So use those for 15 minutes on, take them off for an hour, do it again. Take it off for an hour, do that as many times as you can, because that helps break the inflammatory process. Make sure that you have something between your skin and an ice pack before you put it on there, because it can burn you. But ice, we have found, is much better to calm down a disc that's inflamed than heat is.
Yes. And so that's important to know, because if you're putting heat onto an inflamed area, you're going to further inflame that.
Right. So ice before heat with disc.
Yes.
So, and occasionally I have people that say ice will aggravate their back pain. Well, if it aggravates it, don't use it. Take it off. So, but there you have it. If you hurt your back, stop and ice it.
That's your first starting point.
Yes.
Then seek someone that is experienced in dealing with disc
Yes.
cases.
And don't put it off for 2 or 3 weeks. The longer it goes on, the harder it's going to be, and the longer it's going to take to fix it. So seek help pretty, immediately, and
Yes.
go from there.
Well, we've covered a lot.
We have.
And so we will see you next time. But maybe just for the sake of Henry, we should mention again what his new email is.
Okay. It is askhenry@wellnessblueprintpodcast.com. And if you would like us to talk about a specific topic, you apparently can email Henry.
Henry's going to vet our requests, I guess.
Yes. So it's pretty ridiculous at this point, but he's been with us a long time, so.
Yeah, he is. So, and I'm glad he mentioned the triple E,
Yes.
education, experience, and equipment. So
Yes.
valuable when you're seeking healthcare.
Absolutely. So I guess tune in next time to see what Henry has for us to talk about.
See you next time on The Wellness Blueprint with Tim
And Christy.